Hello, everyone, and welcome to the midweek brief. My name's Anthony, and on behalf of FP Markets, thank you for attending. Thank you for viewing, and please like and subscribe. It helps us a lot. It means a lot to me personally. Just a brief this week. This is all just an update on several subjects. Firstly, inflation, elections out of the United States, and obviously a Middle East update and Ukraine update, amongst some other news to talk about and upcoming economic events. As I get started, as always, please take advantage of our Traders Hub. It is absolutely free to use for account holders. It has everything you need. You've got your technical analysis, daily reports, fundamental analysis, research and education, videos, company news, articles. This is gold dust. Please feel free to use it. And if you need any explanation how to use it, or find something, please reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help. So I shall digress and proceed. The first thing is inflation. It's something we're all familiar with, is the cost of living. And, it's okay. We're all human. We know what it's like. However, it seems that the UK, and this was announced a few weeks ago, but the reason I'm bringing it up now is one, because every time you hear a government or banks mention inflation and it's turning around, always give it a few days or even a few weeks and actually see if it is. Well, it seems that the UK inflation is slowly turning around. They have acknowledged that they reckon the answer to this and why it's turning around is healthy competition. Competition, not just in retail or supermarkets, but competition across the board, from water companies to phone companies to electricity companies. The UK has a lot of competition in those sectors and it's been encouraged over the years. So you might get quoted a monthly phone bill with one company and you can go to the other and it's cheaper and they battle against one another. This has also been the reason why, despite the cost of living worldwide, and the UK, of course, has been hit by this with increase in rents and utility costs. Its food stayed reasonably affordable. It has increased, I'm not going to lie, but it's still not increased on the same level as a lot of countries. So UK is trying to get the message out there to other countries to encourage competition. This is not a bad thing. This is great for us consumers. It could take months, obviously, before we start seeing that effect. And the reason I mention this is because not all countries encourage competition. A lot of countries, especially smaller countries, tend to be more government controlled, government owned electricity companies, utilities in general. Therefore, they can dictate the price, and therefore it becomes more of a cartel, a bit like OPEC with oil. So, yes, they're talking about inflation dropping. This is great. Let's see, start noticing it yourselves when you're out and about, wherever you may live, and start seeing if the competition is actually happening. Because I've said this for years, competition's healthy. It's great for the consumer. It's good for business. It's great for growth. But again, not all countries adopt that philosophy. We'll move on to the next subject, which is our old friend Donald Trump. Although, to be fair, I always say Joe Biden is our old friend too. They're both old. So it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But they're throwing more cases at Donald Trump. I am not going to go into each single case. Some of it's laughable, some of it seems serious. This all goes back to the Stormy Daniels. Now they're coming up with claims that witnesses paid $30,000 to buy illegitimate baby. You couldn't make this up. A lot of it. Trump is brushing these off so easily, and yes, he is an arrogant man. Well, there's no doubt about that. He did answer his phone in court the other day. I don't encourage these things. Regardless if you like him or not, there's no harm in staying professional and respectful at the end of the day. But he's still gaining support. Every time they throw a case at him, he gets more supporters outside of the court. We've seen support has been growing. We can see supporters have been gathering outside. We're looking at there's so many cases that have been thrown against him, and on the same day almost being thrown out, that Sky News have presented a 24-hour live RSS feed to keep people updated, but nothing seems to be sticking, and it seems to be making them stronger. How do we know that? We look at opinion polls out of the United States. Biden gets the occasional +1 opinion poll. Unfavorable seems to be gaining for him. The disapproved means people are basically sort of abstaining to a degree, so they haven't yet decided. Biden gained a little bit here, but at the moment we scroll down into Trump territory, we're seeing +4, +3. Biden got a +10, Trump +9, Trump +10, Trump +9, +9, +2. Got a few independents here. A few disapprovals, people holding back. Trump again, Biden +2, Trump, 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 Trump. He's pretty much won this without it even started, which really raises concerns in America because if for some reason he doesn't win the election, it's going to cause a lot of upheaval. But it's early days. Let's see. A lot can happen over the coming months. But just remember, it seems that everything they're throwing at him, he's brushing off and it's making him stronger. And the numbers talk for themselves. Now, here's some more regarding his articles. Here's another one. Newspaper chief was Donald Trump's eyes and ears and killed unfavorable stories about him. Caught his. This is really ironic. And killed unfavorable stories about him. He must have been bad at his job because the whole time Trump was in power and after he was not president, all we've seen is nothing but cases and articles and slander stories written about him, even when he was in power. So I'm not sure why they're saying that this guy, the newspaper chief, was eyes and ears and killed unfavorable stories, because all I remember during Trump's time in charge, apart from trying to bring peace to the Middle East and sitting people down more to talk and not starting any wars, it does. All I heard was bad stories again about him, and I check the news every day. So this is a non-article. This is just something out of nothing. It's a pure accusation. It's not going to go anywhere. Again, it just makes him stronger. At this moment in time, it is like that Michael Jackson meme where he is sitting back eating the popcorn. The Democrats are doing the campaigning for Trump. Every time they do something or they try to prosecute him or slander him, it's gaining him more support. Trump doesn't have to spend a penny on this election campaign, it seems, because they're doing the hard work for him. However, you know, there might be a secret weapon, and the secret weapon being is that the United States have approved yet another $95 billion aid package. Now, how do they come up with this money? Well, they print it. Now, in Europe and most of the world, our currency is valued at a certain rate or a certain pace that only a certain amount of money can be printed. This is a good thing because it means you can't just flood a country full of money that loses its value. Um, America are doing this now. You've got two sides to this. Some would say, well, this is a bit silly of the Democrats. Why would they be doing this just before an election? They know that people don't like giving aid to Ukraine. They're going to lose support. Yes, that's a very high probability, and that's not unreal to think so, and is likely to happen. However, this could be a case of a Trojan horse. Perhaps the Democrats have known they've lost the election, so they want to, how can I put it? It's like when you take over stewardship of, let's say, a military base in a region. So let's say France leave a military base and the British have to come and take over. Well, if those two countries were at war, which they're not, but in theory, if they were, then they might booby trap and leave things to, be detrimental for the future. In this case, it could be very strongly a case of the Democrats know that they've lost the election. So what they're trying to do here is spend every bit of money that they can print because they know it can take a few years for it to really hit the dollar and devalue it. It takes time for that to kick in. And then that is likely to happen when Trump is in charge or if Trump is in charge. And then people will start putting pressure on Trump saying, the dollar's going down. You promised our economy will go up. Well, yes, the economy might be going up, but the dollar will be going down because at the moment, the Democrats are literally printing it like it's monopoly money. But educated Americans, people who work in our industry, traders like yourselves, know about this. You know about quantitative ease, and the printing of money is not necessarily a good thing at all. But your average Joe, they probably won't know this, and they'll just say Trump is a failure. So I'd like, I won't go as far as saying it's a smart move, but it seems like a probable move. In terms of Ukraine, whilst we're talking about it, not major significant developments in the region. What we have seen is some strikes still occurring within Russian territory. It seems that Ukraine is trying to pull Russian troops to the north here and to the south as they push into Crimea. It seems Russia are doing a offensive in the middle in the Donbass region, the Luhansk region here, but Ukraine are trying to hold them off here, but diverting forces to the south to push into Crimea and to the north, not to push into Russia, but to keep them at bay. Um, is it winning? Not necessarily. I think Ukraine this summer, their goal is to hold the line as much as possible. This is a summer war because once September, October comes in Ukraine, it gets too cold, too wet, that it doesn't really progress in either direction. So this is very much a war of attrition. If we go over to what's on the news most, okay, is the Israel-Gaza situation, Israel-Iran situation. we're seeing strange things happening in Gaza in terms of, yes, it does seem that the IDF, Israel, are getting heavy-handed. They're striking across the board again. We expect this to pick up by the end of the month when the Jewish holiday of Passover is over. Um, but at the moment, the IDF are telling them in the north of Gaza to evacuate as they're going to be putting more strikes in and sending troops there. But they've also told them to evacuate the refugee camp at the south because they believe Hamas are hiding amongst refugees. Now, the problem you got with this is it doesn't look good at all because you're attacking them north and south and leaving a very thin strip at the middle. Now, to put this into perspective, to get from here, the beach, to drive to here is about a 10-minute drive. Okay, this is not a big area, 10-15 minute drive. So where do the people have to go? They don't. So this is likely to put a lot more pressure on Egypt to start opening their borders, take them in. And I believe that's probably what Israel are intending to do. The Rafah is here and the crossing is here. Now, always remember, Egypt's wall with the Palestinians, with Gaza, is a lot bigger than the Israeli wall. So just always remember that, despite what you hear. However, Egypt probably doesn't want to because they don't want to allow any possible Hamas into their territory. They do not have a good relationship with them at all. They're different ideologies. And the reason to back that up is Egypt, amongst some other nations, Middle Eastern nations, were actually mediators at a third ceasefire talk only a few days ago. And from reports saying that, in fairness to Israel, their latest ceasefire deal was the fairest of them all. He said the complete IDF withdrawal from Gaza and the implementation of a Middle Eastern, aka Muslim force, which Palestinians probably and understandably would feel a lot more comfortable with, to help police it for the foreseeable future. Israel would also help fund the rebuilding of Gaza, etc., allowing humanitarian aid. They would cease all activities and withdraw all troops. No airstrikes will happen. It would stop the moment they signed the ceasefire. However, Hamas have flat out rejected it. Therefore, other countries in the region are starting to conclude, and Egypt have said this, that they believe that they, and Saudi Arabia have officially said this, they firmly believe that Hamas want to bring the whole region into a war. And it's not coincidence Hamas are backed by Iran. Iran had tried striking Israel head on. It was an epic failure. Not one missile got through onto Israeli soil. So they probably thought, do you know what, we can't. But where we are more successful is in our proxy wars, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, funding little groups there to conduct strikes. And it seems that that is probably the way forward. We'll probably see a decrease in tensions to head on between Israel and Iran, but we're seeing more fighting happening in northern Israel on the Lebanon border with Hezbollah and in Gaza itself. So a lot of pressure is now going to be on Egypt to see how they're going to help handle the situation. Are they going to let refugees in? But then if they don't, because they're worried about Hamas coming in, then it's a win-win for Israel because then it's a case of I told you so. And Egypt being a Muslim country, all eyes are starting to turn on them. Perhaps they should allow them in, but they don't want to. They did it many years before, and their crime rate increased in the region. That's a whole new subject. So this is getting to a very tense point. There is no reason, well, there is many reasons, but Hamas should really consider a ceasefire. There's no chance that they are going to necessarily win this conflict, but being backed by Iran, they've got a lot of resources to at least continue going. If we have a look at gold, um, the calming down between Israel and Iran, they're not shouting at each other so much. Again, perhaps going back into a proxy war state could be the reason that gold has slowed down the past few days, which is great because you don't want something to go up forever and it can't go up forever. But it just seems that it's cooled off the past few days. Or this is a sign of something big to come and people are trying to bring down the price in order to maximize any upward move and potential profit. Eyes will be on gold, eyes will be on oil, especially out of this region, bearing in mind that Saudi Arabia is mass producer and holder of oil and member of OPEC. So keep an eye on oil and gold, especially regarding this region. We have a look at economic events this week. We've got some retail sales coming out. But the one big one will be tomorrow morning, depending on where you are in the world, Bank of Japan interest rate decision. Japan works on an honor code system. I've mentioned this before. They don't just blindly follow what other countries are doing, which I've said in this industry you kind of have to do. but I understand their point of view. So it seems that they need to increase their interest rates. A lot of pressure is on them to do so, and this has been mentioned and has been acknowledged yesterday. Bank of Japan will hike rates if trend inflation accelerates. Well, it is accelerating, therefore, it is very likely over the coming weeks, or maybe not tomorrow, but maybe in future interest rate decisions, that they might start to increase it and encourage to encourage that aspect of the economy. If we go back to the economic calendar, also we've got personal spending coming out of the United States, and the one that's quite interesting is PCE. How much are people consuming? Not food, not energy, but consuming luxury goods, aftershaves, pharmaceuticals, makeup, these types of things. And this is a key indicator that will relate to inflation. We don't expect the PCE to change overnight. It's usually one of the last things that tends to change its figures because, yes, inflation turnaround's been mentioned. GDP might be up in certain countries, but it's a knock-on effect. It doesn't mean that just because inflation's slightly turned around that people are going to rush out and buy 100, 150 pound or dollar aftershave. They're still perhaps going to stick to the cheaper brands until things pick up, and then they'll start confidently spending on luxurious goods. So news out of the United States focus there, very much regarding inflation, Bank of Japan interest rate decision, PPI out of Australia, out of Australasia in general. So there'll, quite a bit of focus on Asia tomorrow, and initial jobless claims as well. In terms of stocks, I'm mentioning Tesla again because Tesla had this downward move in terms of it couldn't keep up with the demand, so they didn't the production was too slow for the demand. But they are expected to announce a new car and new products coming out shortly, and this is likely to push up their share price. As we can see here, the projections are likely to push it up. What it is exactly, we still don't know. However, this doesn't fix the problem of producing. So he's let 10% of global workforce go, but he is receiving pressure from shareholders to actually start hiring again or consider opening up factories in cheaper locations and hiring locally, as most companies tend to do at some point anyway. We've seen it all before. It's not a lifestyle choice. It's you go where it's cheaper to operate and then export your goods. It seems Tesla might have to get to that point. Whether Elon Musk likes it or not, if he wants to keep his company afloat, he might have to cross that bridge eventually. So it'll be interesting to just keep an eye on Tesla as always. It's an easy one that you see on the news mentioned quite a lot. As the summer approaches, it'll be interesting to keep an eye on things like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, anything military related. And why? Well, part of that aid package to Ukraine would have been military equipment. Therefore, the American government has to pay companies like Lockheed Martin for its missiles, ammunition, aircraft, whatever it may be. So as the summer offensive from Russia pushes on, we expect that their share price will probably go up. It makes sense. But also of Israel, because 60% of Israel's arms are bought from the United States, and that deal's not been cancelled. There was talk about cancelling it, but the United States are not going to cancel that. They make billions from that. There's no chance they're going to cancel it. And in fact, because when things like ceasefires are rejected, it just makes America's stance that their relationship with Israel is stronger than ever. It gives validity to that claim. If we actually look here, now to end it, I wanted to just touch on something very brief, which was McDonald's post rare sales miss at Middle East hit weakens overseas business. Very briefly, you might see on social media a lot of people talking about boycotting of certain products. You take it with a pinch of salt. Yes, sales are down in the Middle East in regards of McDonald's, but globally they're still up. And the Middle East only makes up a small percentage, I believe it's 5 to 10% of all global sales of McDonald's. McDonald's primarily makes a lot of its money from the West, Australia, maybe South Africa, let's say more westernized countries in that aspect, more capitalist runs countries, whether you like it or not, but that's the truth. So McDonald's in theory could actually close all its stores in the Middle East tomorrow and it would still generate a profit each year. Slightly down, yes, but not enough to cripple the company. So I'm not disproving what the claims on social media are saying. It's just everything seems a bit exaggerated at the moment. Yes, sales are down in the Middle East because people are boycotting, Ironically, the people claiming to boycott Israeli-owned or Israeli-invested products are still using Facebook to promote the message, which we know Mark Zuckerberg owns and therefore is kind of a Jewish company. So yeah, it's an interesting one. That one I won't say anymore, but I'm sure you can get the point I'm saying. So yes, a lot of division everywhere, a lot to keep an eye on, a lot across the board. As always, any questions, please leave in the comment section, contact our live chat, or if you have a full account with us, contact your allocated point of contact, your account manager, and they'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Okay. Everything mentioned on this video is not financial advice. It is not for you to go off and suddenly trade gold, as I say. This is to bring you up to speed with what's actually going on in the world. We know that news sources can be left-leaning, right-leaning, and can give off different vibes, which can mislead people. Again, this is the whole point of this meeting. So thank you very much. I hope you'll have a good rest of the week and a great weekend, and see you again next week.